And it was very hard to walk away from a six-figure job.
Yeah.
We had to prove that we could do it. So we took on property managing ourselves. We quickly, with the sale of our home in California, we obviously put less down payment on our home here for a payment we were comfortable with. And then we took that money and of course, another bonus check at the end of the year. And we
Right.
parlayed some money into buying some more multifamily.
One of the things that I thoroughly enjoy Sunday morning is talking to folks that are a part of our school community, one rental at a time. Just this morning, I talked to somebody who's 23 and got started at 20, still in college. And now I'm talking to somebody who got started in 08 and that is actually at 93 units. So again, we got both sides of the equation. Jason Huber. How you doing, Jason?
I'm great. Good. Glad to be here.
I got to tell you, your last name threw me for a loop because Zuber and Huber sometimes gets confused in my head with this dyslexia. So that was funny to see.
It's pronounced the same. So Huber and Zuber. We could be twins.
There you go. Well, hey, do me a favor, introduce yourself to the audience. This is going up on YouTube. Where are you at in this community? Give us your real estate investing resume, and we'll get into the story.
Sure. I currently invest in the South Bend, Elkhart, kind of Michiana area. So northern Indiana, southern Michigan. Been only investing here for about 4 years, maybe a little over 4 years. We currently own and self-manage 96 units.
Wow.
In the multifamily space. We're also very active flipping. So we flip single family. We're probably flipping about 8 to 10 properties a year.
Oh, and when did the flipping start? Have you always been doing that, or is that like a recent addition?
We flipped a few houses in California. We'll get into my story a little bit. We started in California before we moved out here. I flipped a few up there with some family partners who are in the construction business. But then we paused on that for a while, just focused while I was still in my corporate life, focused on, gaining a portfolio. And then we moved out here, we really got more involved in flipping.
All right. Well, let's go back to the beginning. I think you told me earlier that your journey started in 08 with an accidental rental. What's the deal there?
Yeah. So in 08 was happening, and I had gotten a big promotion for work in which required us to move. So I was actually born and raised up near you, a little bit north of you, up in the Yuba City area, a little bit north of Sacramento.
Yep.
So my wife and I grew up in the construction industry. My dad and brother are both general contractors up that way. So I knew construction pretty well. So I really wanted to buy a fixer-upper house. So our first house that we ever purchased, my wife and I, after we got married, was a fixer-upper. We worked on it, did a lot of improvements to it. Anyway, when I gotten that promotion in 08 and we looked to move, 08 was happening. We thought about putting our house on the market, but we didn't really want to buy anything down in Southern California where we were headed. So we decided to rent our house out to a friend of ours. Okay. And then to rent a house down in Southern California, let the market figure itself out, and then go from there. So we did that for a year. So I became a landlord in the house, in my first personal house. And that started our landlording journey.
Remind me of 08. Again, it's all a blur to me now. 08 was kind of like it was coming over the top of the mountain, and we had years of pain ahead. Is that what you remember about 08? Yeah,
I just, again, I wasn't really super involved in investing at the time. That kind of sparked me. But I just knew that, as I was getting ready to put my house on the market, I saw it, coming down. And I'm like, if I put my house on the market, I'm just going to have to keep reducing the price. Right. And then when I was looking to purchase, I'm like, am I going to purchase something that, in 12 months from now is not going to be worth anything? So I just decided I'm going to wait. I just put pause on both and said, I'm going to, just focus on my work, on my career at the time, and just wait a year and do this and see what happens. So I kind of got lucky and, watch some things. I didn't want to buy in a plummeting market. So
yeah. And that's what I remember about California. Again, not every state had drastic swings, but California did. Certainly Sacramento, certainly the Inland Empire, certainly Fresno. Yeah, we definitely a falling knife. So I think it's a good strategy, right? You held on to what you had. You stuck a family friend in there. Did that work out? Did the family friend perform?
Yeah, he took care of the place. He was a great friend of mine. Paid rent, consistently. All that was great, and I was actually making more than the payment. Again, it's what struck my interest in the real estate market, and that's what got me going. And after that 1 year, that I was waiting, the business I was in, I was a retail manager, and about half of my pay every year was a bonus check. So I could get a very large bonus at the end of the year. So after that 1 year, and I was able to cash out that nice size bonus check, and the market had stabilized, I used that as my down payment on my new house that I was going to live in. And so I didn't have to sell my rental off. So I just kept that as a rental for years and years.
Oh, very, very cool. So, okay. So you move down to Southern California, you rent for a year, you get your big check, you buy something. Where does the story go from there?
So again, with my position and my company the way it was, every year I got a bonus check. So my wife and I decided, hey, we're going to live off our salary, and every year we're going to get this bonus check. Let's invest that instead of
that's awesome.
spending it in something else. We just decided to invest it. So every year or two, when we had enough money saved, we would just buy another investment property. So we ended up. Again, we were traveling back and forth. We had all our family was still in Northern California. We were living down by San Diego. So we just decided that we were going to invest in Northern California because that's what we knew. So up in that area over the course of the next 7 or 8 years, we ended up buying, I think we ended up with 5 rentals in that area total. And then we had bought a cabin too. We have 4 kids. So we spoiled ourselves a little bit. We had bought a cabin up in Big Bear, and that derailed our investment plan a little bit, but it was fun. We got our use out of it and really had a good time. So after about, 10 years in Southern California, we had those 5 rentals, and that was great. And we had seen some, as I was studying real estate and doing some other things, we had saw a lot of appreciation, obviously, in California through these rental properties.
Sure.
But that one, it was great because I had some money sitting in them. I had some built up equity over the years, but also it became the point of entry became very difficult with, or more expensive, I should say.
Sure.
So what I decided, I started really researching out of state investing. And I started, obviously that led me to the Bigger Pockets of the world and just different books and podcasts and everything about out of state investing. And I probably spent about a year just really researching how I would do it, if it was right for me, because everything I had invested in before, I really knew, I knew the area very well.
Yeah.
So I started looking at several markets around the country. I had never been to Indiana, I don't think, before that. I was looking at Indianapolis. I was looking at a few other markets that, were the buzzwords online. And when I was looking at a map of Indiana, trying to figure out where the suburb, learning Indianapolis, I should say, sorry. I was looking I saw South Bend. I know, Notre Dame is there. That's a great college area. Let me research that area a little bit. Sure enough, I found a 4-plex for $97,000 that I wanted to put an offer on.
What year was that?
So this was in 2016.
Okay. All right. So 2016 4-plex, $25K a door. Or actually 24K a door. Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. Right. So I put an offer on it, got it, started researching property managers. I hired an inspector to go and inspect it, do a video walkthrough, found a property manager that would manage it for me before we even closed. She went and did a walkthrough. We analyzed everything from a distance. I didn't come out here. I didn't leave California. So we closed on that, got them rented. And the property manager that I had was also a licensed agent. And so as we, developed a relationship, started talking and everything. This one was going so well. It was obviously some great cash flow. We decided that, we could continue to expand, out here in this area. So she would lead me to some other deals, when she would get a listing or when something she thought would fit my portfolio, she would add that in. And I think we ended up with another fourplex and about, I think we had five houses, 5 single-family houses, before I'd even come out here for a visit.
So you had 13 units. You had 2 4s and 5
units.
houses before you
Yeah.
ever got on a plane.
Correct. And we did sell off 1 or 2 of our, actually, I think we still have 3 of our California rentals so that we could, buy 2 for 1 here. So we would sell that 1031. We did that a few times and move that money over here so we could then get more cash flow from, from moving the money from California to here. We got more cash flow and we could get a 2 for 1. So we bought 2 houses for every one that we were selling there.
Yeah, again, one of the beauties of both our stories is at some point we both executed 1031 exchanges where we basically leveraged equity to produce more cash flow, right? By going to, 1 for 2, if you will. We went from 8 to 80, right? Because we moved our houses into larger multifamilies. It's a big part of the story. But it sounds like you had, I'll call it, good success building a team out there. How did you do it? I mean, one of the things that I think a lot of real estate investors get wrong when they go out of state is, frankly, their team. I've seen more people, Jason, unfortunately, buy units in a city out of state and have their team, frankly, not be the right ones. Did you just get lucky? Did you talk to 100 people? How'd you find her?
So, it's mixed emotions story. So I will tell you that at first, she was amazing for me. She, we did hit it off and she was doing some great things for us, helping us grow our portfolio and things of that nature. I did come find out down the road that there was some other things going on. I won't get into that story, but that's for me to tell later. But we ended up not, parting ways later once I moved here, but she did help me grow my portfolio. I had a lot of other boots on the ground. I had a great relationship with an inspector team that would go out and look at properties for me. I had developed a relationship with a couple of wholesalers in town that would go and check out a property for me. And just, I'm a big believer in networking. And if you can, as you get to know people that are in the business, everyone's willing to share and just, lift each other up. And it really is a nice community of professionals.
Yeah. That's the key when you're going out of state. I always talk because, again, talking about bigger pockets often talks about the core 4, right? Real estate agent, lender, inspector, handyman or whatever the core 4 is. For me, it's not the core 4. It's the core 5. I always think you have to have somebody on the ground. Frankly, it's best if you're not paying them, right? Because I think once money gets involved, they might tell you the truth, but it'll be the prettiest picture of the truth, right? I want somebody to tell me the gnarly, ugly stuff.
Right.
And I think the key is networking. What you said there is never stop networking. If you're living in California and investing in Indiana, you should never stop networking.
I agree. 100%. And it's, you want someone that's going to not only tell you that gnarly truth, I agree with you, but also that's going to challenge your truth, right? Someone's going to challenge you and say, well, have you thought about this or this or this? Yeah. I think that's important.
Yeah. And again, a lot of people out of state investing, right? They find I'll just pick on a fourplex. They find a fourplex on First Street and it looks great. But when you find a local investor, they're going to tell you never buy a house on First or fourplex on First Street, right? You need that. You need that on the ground knowledge, because one of the things that I think people get wrong with out of state investing is, frankly, they're almost arrogant. And what do I mean by that? Like, you're in California, you're doing the work. You find a fourplex that's been listed for 180 days, and you're like, oh my God, it's the best thing ever. I'm so lucky I found it. No, dude. It's been listed for 80 days. Every local investor has kicked that rock at least twice.
Right.
There is something about that house, that listing, that location, the condition that other local investors don't want it. You have to realize that if you're an out-of-state investor, it's okay, but don't be so arrogant that you think the local investors haven't looked at it already. What do you think, Jason?
I'm laughing because I couldn't agree with you more, because that first fourplex we bought had been on the market for a while. We made them that offer, and that's the only multifamily property that I have sold since I've lived here, because that one just did not fit my portfolio. It was good for cash flow, but
Yeah.
it was a maintenance nightmare, bad location, just attracted the wrong people. Yeah, it was absolutely to a T what you're describing.
Yeah, folks, again, what I would tell folks to do, and again, this story, Jason, is amazing. It's probably the most positive story I've heard for somebody doing what you did, right? Find a new location, buy 13 units out of state, brand new team, all of that. Best story I've heard today. Lot of them are bad. But folks, if you just take a little bit of time and do a little bit of networking up front, you might have avoided that fourplex, right? Is that fair?
100% fair. Absolutely. And I just got into this, research mode. I found this place. It was so good. It was looked like a great deal. I found somebody that also told me it was going to be a great deal, but I hadn't built that network up yet. So once I've established that network, obviously my ideas of the area and my knowledge of the area expanded, and, it changed your mind on a few things.
Yeah. No, again, hopefully you're not taking this as a negative. I'm just trying to help the audience realize, if you could do just a little networking up front, you might be able to remove some pain. And for some people, Jason, they make that first mistake on the fourplex and they're out. They'll never go back.
I would agree. And I, looking back, I wish I probably would have made a trip out here. Once I decided this is the area I was going to go after, I would have made a trip out here, built that team, got in a local RIA or a couple of groups, and just really built some of those, relationships up, drove the areas. And honestly, that's what ended up happening later in my journey. But, and that's the reason I moved here, was because of that. But I wish I would have done that probably a little sooner. It would have maybe at least saved me that fourplex.
Yeah. I do think there's some value once you've made that commitment to an area. I do think there's some value of getting on the plane, spending a long weekend, just verifying it. Yeah, I know it's probably a couple $1,000, flights, hotels, food, all of that. But again, if you're talking about putting hundreds of thousands of dollars in something and then 1031ing, it's probably worth the expense. Would you agree?
Absolutely right. And as I fast forward the story, it's exactly what happened, which really, propelled how we're here today. So,
well, let's talk about that. So you go, you've already said you moved there. Was that a job? Was it a job transfer? Was it just a choice? Hey, we've got a lot of our financial eggs here. We really should live there. What was the impetus for the move?
Yes and no. So we, again, 13 years in Southern California, did the out-of-state investing and sold off most of everything in California. I had, for work, I was at a conference. At this time, I'm a territory manager, and I had a conference in Indianapolis, and it happened to land on my wife and I's anniversary. So my wife was like, "Oh, you're going to be gone." And I said, "Why don't you fly out? Yeah. And after my conference is over, let's take a drive up to South Bend. Let's check out the stuff that we own that we've never seen. Let's go check out that area. Let's have a little business and a little getaway for the two of us. And let's spend, as you described, a long weekend checking out the area, meeting some people. We had still never face-to-face met our property manager. And let's go check out that area." So that's exactly what we did. We drove up here. We spent 3.5 days in the South Bend area. And to be honest, we just fell in love with the area. It reminded us of our hometown in Northern California. We had this little desire to possibly move out of California for lots of reasons. We saw our properties, and we kind of just started dreaming about what our life, could be like if we made a jump. So I was with a very large company that could transfer people, I was with the largest retailer in the world. You can put that together. I put in for a transfer to come out here. One of the locations, the closest store to Notre Dame, happened to have a vacancy that was open for a long time. I had a good resume with the company. They called me the next week and said, if you want the job, it's yours.
Nice.
So I was able to transfer out here with my job. I did have it in the back of my mind that, man, I want to really get into real estate. I want to do this as my post-career career. And so when I got here, we were able to buy our dream home here for a fraction of the price that what we could buy, in Southern California.
You mean South Bend is cheaper than California? Tell me it's not so.
Yeah. So a funny story is our house in Southern California. We knew at the time we could sell it for a little over $500,000. So I called my agent here, and I one night, as on my 3-day weekend, and I said, "Hey, just for giggles, what could I buy for $500,000 in this area?" And she laughed at me and she said, "Are you serious?" And I said, "Kinda." And she said, "I'll show you 2 tomorrow that I love." And I said, "Okay." So she showed me this house. One of the 2 houses I looked at is where I'm talking to you from today.
Oh, that's awesome.
I loved it. I fell in love with it. I have a very large family. There's 7 of us total that live here. And
nice.
It's on 5 acres. It's gorgeous. So we had to pull the trigger. So that was in late September when we came for a visit. We moved into this house.
Sorry, what year was that again? Sorry.
So this was late September 2019.
19. Okay.
Yep. So we moved into this house January 1st, 2020.
Wow.
So that's how fast it all happened. We went home, told our kids, and got them on board and just made it happen. So we moved out here. I put together a quick plan for 2 years to continue my job until I could go full time. We were able to do that in about 14 months.
So when you say full time, you mean you exited your day job and now you're a full-time investor?
Correct. And it was very hard to walk away from a 6-figure job.
Yeah.
We had to prove that we could do it. So we took on property managing ourselves. We quickly, with the sale of our home in California, we obviously put less down payment on our home here for a payment we were comfortable with. And then we took that money and of course, another bonus check at the end of the year. And we parlayed some money into buying some more multifamily. We were able to pick up a 14 unit pretty quickly. We picked up a couple more 4 units. And then one thing I did in that first year is I made a transition that I really wanted to hold multifamily. I saw the cash flow and I was really looking to replace, my job. So when I saw the cash flow in multifamily, I decided to, if I lost any renters in my single family homes, I was going to do a cosmetic flip, modernize them, make them nice, and get them on the market, and then parlay that money back into multifamily. So the 5 single families that we had, we flipped those. I ended up buying a 3-house package and got a contractor to flip all 3 of them, and we did very well on those. And so long story short is we started flipping houses and parlaying that money into multifamily. We ended up buying a nice 18 unit. Everything I buy is value add. Like I'm looking for something that was mismanaged. I have an operational background. I want mismanaged, rough and tumble, because I have the construction background too. I can go in and hire somebody or do a little work myself, get them up to what standards should be, and then get the rent stabilized into a market size rent. And so everything that I buy from a multifamily space is really trying to find that value add so I can create that equity.
I love it. I mean, this is so similar to Olivia and I's story, right? We bought a bunch of houses. We moved that equity into the multis. We did do some flips. We started flipping in 18. And again, for us, flips were chunk money that we then could throw into multifamily. So I love this story. Let's talk about walking away from a 6-figure job. Not a lot of people have done that.
Yeah.
So it sounded like it was a 2-year plan that you got done in 14 months. Congratulations. What was that day like when you walked in and gave notice? How did that feel?
It was so I'll describe 2 days to you if I can, because I've told
Sure.
this story before. So 27 years with the same company. It's the only job I've really ever had besides working in the family business. And they offer a lot of stability. The paychecks never bounced, right? I absolutely loved my career. I met some amazing people along the way. I have no just background. I have no college degree. I'm just learned from, started off $5 an hour and pulling in some shopping carts. And I needed to, find a company that I could grow with. And that's what happened. So, yeah. So that day, my wife and I obviously had discussed it, for months and months. When we decided the day that, I was going to give notice, I gave a 30-day notice because I felt like it was the right thing to do. I called my boss and I said, I need to talk to him. And he says, well, I'm headed to the store, real close to you. I'll just swing in the parking lot. So he came in the parking lot. I met him out in the parking lot, and I told him, I gave my notice, and we had a discussion about it. And as I was walking back into my location, I almost had like a mini panic attack. Like, what have I done?
What'd I do?
Yeah, I still have 4 kids at home. I have college, I have weddings, I have all these things that I have to plan and prepare for. Even though I had really analyzed the decision, knew it was the right decision, I knew in my heart it was the right thing to do. As I'm walking back, my heart is racing. I feel like, I'm just scared. I'm an 18-year-old kid who just started at the job, scared to death at what I'm going to do. And then you fast forward those 30 days, and we, when it was my last day, and there's a gathering at this, my location, and a goodbye, And I remember that, I would always park really far out in the parking lot, but I remember walking again from my location out to my vehicle for the last time, getting ready to head home and starting this new journey. I felt a freedom I had never felt. I felt liberated almost. I felt empowered. And I'd done a lot in that 30 days to make sure I'm going to set up myself for success. I'm a little bit of a workaholic. I love, people and working, but I can tell you, we haven't looked back. It's been, I say that working for that company was probably one of the best things ever happened to me. I met my wife there and met some amazing people there, but leaving was probably the second best thing I've ever done, is just making sure that I'm, taking on this next chapter of my life. So it's been an absolute great journey.
So let's talk about that. Let's talk about the finances, right? Once you and your wife get together, how many rentals did you have at that time?
I think we had 54 at that time.
So the 54 rentals, were they performing well enough to quote unquote pay your bills at that time?
Yes. After we calculated in what we were paying for property management. So again, okay, we had a full-time property manager, and we sat down and realized that we were paying a 10% rate of rent. Oh, okay. And we realized that's $40,000 to $50,000 of money we were giving away to manage a portfolio that was, 15 minutes from our house. So if we added that into our pay, we knew that we could make equivalent to what my, week to week check was.
I love that. Okay. So again, you backed into the numbers. You knew you were going to be okay with the rentals, especially taking on the property management. But then you had also the flipping. How many flips had you done while working, roughly?
We did the 5 that I had owned before I moved here, and we did 3 more. So while I was working, we had done a total of 8.
So let's talk about the 3 more. Those 3 more were local to Indiana or South Bend?
Yes, they're actually in Granger, which is like right next door to South Bend. Yeah, same area.
Yeah. So not California. They were
correct.
So I'm just curious, what was the average profit on those 3? I'm trying to figure out the proof of concept. Was it like 20 grand profit roughly average, or a little less, a little more?
A little more. We did very well on those. So I would say 35. We netted right at about $100,000 on those 3. They were 3 houses in a row. So
Oh
they were
yeah.
all next door to each other.
Yep.
And we got them as a package deal that we could buy them. They had renters in them. So as I started working on, relocating the renters somewhere else, I hired a contractor that could do all three of them in succession.
Oh, I like
So
it.
we got the first two done. The first renter moved out. We were doing the first one, and the second renter kind of moved out quicker than we anticipated. So they started that one at the same time. So we ended up putting the first two on the market at the same time. And then we had somebody who came and looked at them. He, was so impressed with the work that we had done. He actually made me an offer for the third one as well. And we hadn't even touched it. So I made about 40,000 on one, about 40,000 on the two that we had done. And yet I got another 20,000 profit on the one we hadn't even touched. And I'm like, well, we haven't even touched it. We don't have to invest any money. Let's go. Yeah. So it was a great deal.
So, okay. So you're paying your bills with your rentals. You now have proof of concept that you're decent at flipping. You just put 6 figures in the bank account.
Sure.
Yeah. I could see walking away from a 6-figure job,
Well,
with that.
And the 6-figure was my my check. The hard part was the bonus, that I could bonus up to 100% of my salary if I did it well,
Right.
And so as my wife and I want to stress, before I forget, my wife is my partner. Like we are in this business together. She works as hard or harder than I do on a day in and day out basis. She is, we call it our lane. She says, my job is the gas pedal and her job is to keep us on the road.
There you go.
So it works
what's your
very
wife's
well.
first name? What's your wife's
My wife's name is Stacy.
Stacy, excellent job keeping this guy on the road.
Thank you.
Clearly needs all the help.
Right. And in our mind, the rentals was what was going to replace my paycheck, but the flips is what we wanted to replace our bonus check. And that's kind of how we looked at it. It just made logical sense to us as we transitioned. So
I think that's awesome. So you're sitting today, if I remember right, you've got 96 units. You've done, I don't know, dozens and dozens of flips. Where do you go from here, Jason? Where does Jason and Stacy go from here?
Right now we just took on a 29 unit package. It's not all in one it's a 9 property, 29 unit package. So we're working on getting that stabilized right now. Okay. Still in the process of that. We had a goal of 100 and we're a little short of that. So I'm sure we're gonna have to sneak in a 4-plex maybe next year somewhere, but I don't think we'll buy much next year. Yep. What I'm really focused on right now, and one thing I really missed, I went from a job where I supervised, up to 500 people, and now it's me and my wife, right? So, and I don't supervise her; she supervises me, right? So,
yeah, let's get that right.
Yeah. So the networking piece that we hit on is huge. So what I'm focused on right now is we just launched another company that we're really trying to get wholesaling up and running, so that I can get a better. And we don't want to wholesale. I'm not looking to wholesale 500 properties a year. I just want to wholesale enough where I could cherry pick the flips that I want and sell some more off. Sure. And, we're trying to launch or raise up our flipping business to where we can probably do 2 or 3 at a time instead of 1 or 2 at a time, and just raise that bandwidth up. And then the other thing I'm really focused on is just the community. I sat on the board of the REAL here locally, and they weren't, we didn't see eye to eye, let's just say that. And I was really focused on growing this community of investors here. I've met some amazing people here. And we started a local community called Elevate, that we actually have a school platform, just like you do. We started in June. We're not growing as fast as you are, but we are definitely working on it. But we're more focused in the Michiana area and growing this community of real estate investors and contractors and property managers and agents, and just really trying to get everyone. And my mindset is, if we can get this group of people working together, all working to elevate each other's game, we're all going to be more successful for it. So, we have long-term goals for the group and the community, but it really has come together nicely. And I know we meet up every Tuesday night, whether it's online or in person. We're walking flips as we're doing them. We're seeing the finished project. We're going over numbers. We're analyzing burrs and rentals. We're talking about inspectors. We just had a great meetup that my partner Matt Parrott put together. That we had the HUD come in and give us a presentation on, how to be a great landlord. And we really just want to focus on doing it right. So that's my big project going forward. I want to grow this community, make this community better, and all the while just keep growing. So.
Yeah, I love that. One of the things I would tell you to check out, I just added it to the school community under classroom. Jason Pritchard, one of the my personal Mount Rushmore of investors, he just gave us three videos. One's a 90-minute session on how he runs his business, which sounds like you're moving to flipping, wholesaling, licensed, all of that. Check that out. Also did a live seller call that he gave us. And then, of course, raising private money. You do got to be level 2, which I think you are at least level 2. But yeah, I would strongly suggest checking out what Jason's put together. And Jason Pritchard just joined my school community, so you can message him directly. He's there. And I think you two would hit it off.
Yeah, I've seen some videos that with you and him before, and I think that he's definitely got the model that I'm looking for. So I'll reach out.
Yeah, reach out. Also watch his stuff. What are your closing thoughts, right? You're talking to somebody who has a 6-figure job. What would you tell them? Obviously, it's possible to replace your income. It takes time. It takes years. Takes 1031. There's lots of things to do, but it is possible, right, Jason?
Absolutely. I would say, get started. You don't have to, in my mind, you don't have to leave your job, or, you don't have to just, you don't have to rip the Band-Aid off, right? You can just put a plan together, really strategically think it through, build the business to where, you're comfortable with the replacement. Obviously, reserves are a big portion of that as well. Make sure that you have a plan, a backup plan, and then go for it. I can tell you that it's scary. I was nervous, but it has been the most liberating thing I've done. And my wife and I, I go back to her. She is my rock. She is, everything in my life. And she has been there with me the whole journey. She's like, hey, if you're ready for crazy, so am I. So let's do it.
Stacy sounds amazing.
Yeah. And you can always go back if, I have a great resume built. And if for some reason this didn't work out, I could go get it. I could get back in the rat race and go for it again. But if I never tried, I never would have known. And so taking control of your own, destiny and future and what we've built. I mean, we've only been doing this full time for 4 years. And
awesome.
I can't stress enough that if I can do it, anybody can do it. And that's what everybody says, right? It's definitely possible. You have to have the confidence and you have to take that first step.
Well, there you go, folks. Jason, this has been a wonderful conversation. Thank you for saying yes to telling your story. Again, he has a school community, elevate-real estate community. It's right there on the bottom of the screen, folks. That's a long one.
It is.
Jason, you're amazing, man. Take care.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you very much.